Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. It's the hashtag News Gang. Our conversation continues. Like we said, it was from China all the way to Kisumu, but that journey was cut short and remains in Naivasha with apparently strange headlines out of Nairobi, according to Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Monica Juma. So, where do we begin? I think to start off with you, Linus. So, what really happened in China, or what didn't happen in China?
Something very bad must have happened in China, because we have not seen President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga since they came back. The question is, where are they? What went wrong?
Are you sure they came back?
No, at least I know Raila Odinga.
I saw a picture of him apparently.
I saw
said to be
pictures of
sneaking into the
We've
car.
not seen them anywhere. But we sat here and spoke of this and in the analogy of a relationship. So, this date, the big offering was the railway line from Naivasha to Kisumu. That was it. And we saw Raila Odinga speaking in Kisumu, and I don't know, Robert, whether we have that bite. We could play this, Raila Odinga speaking somewhere in Nyanza.
I think. Yeah.
It was, I know where it was.
Explaining the...
Yes, it was in Nyakach.
Yeah.
He was speaking in
At Sondu
Nyakach.
Market.
Yeah, let's listen to him. Yeah.
SGR standard gauge rail. What the last watch the sunny go with the China. What is the SGR Buruan again? Naivasha, to Luna Rock, to Luna Nyamira, to Luka Soduka, Kadi Kisumu. Take Kisumu Kacha, it is a report, but Mayin Kisumu.
These are grand promises, and there was an audience there that was very, very eagerly listening to this. And this could be political egg in the face of Raila Odinga if it doesn't happen. As it stands right now, the Chinese are saying, no, we're not going to fund that. The other question that we should actually ask as well is, what then happens? I come from Narok County, and I do know that the head of the current rail is somewhere past a place called Dukamoja.
Yeah.
Dukamoja near Neragiankare. It's right there. It's ended there, right there. So the question is, where does it progress from here? So for Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, this promise that they're going to China principally to get money to fund the railway line is costing them quite much. And you can see by the fact that they have not stepped out since they came back from China. I'm assuming they're back.
Right, and we will get to also where we go from here, because then there was another rather significant announcement that came, interestingly, from China. But speaking of headlines coming here, there was, Joe, a scramble to correct what they called a misconception. Ambassador Juma tweeted, she called it strange headlines out of Nairobi. She talked about the relationship between Kenya and China being broader than SGR, and that in fact the SGR extension beyond Naivasha was never a priority agenda for that mission to Beijing.
I think, Yvonne, a number of things happened here, worthy or not. First of all, it is fair to say that the government, at least I don't remember the government announcing that they will be talking about the Naivasha-Kisumu railway. But Raila Odinga, for the last several weeks, has been saying things that if you then look at them, they represent government positions. For heaven's sake, he has launched Huduma number, is on billboards and all manner of things. So Kenyans have a legit, what lawyers like to call legitimate expectation that when Raila Odinga speaks, then he knows what he's talking about because he's a handshake partner, so probably they spoke with the president. So there's a sense in which a lot of Kenyans believed what Raila Odinga said based on his recent relationship with the president. So if the government really believed that this was not going to happen, this was not on the agenda, no one was going to talk about it, they surely should have known that people would believe what Raila Odinga said. That is why there were newspaper headlines, because that position that was articulated so well by Raila Odinga in Luopian was actually, he articulated it well there, and actually one of the things he said at the end was that would culminate into a new port being built in Kisumu that will be served by that railway before it proceeds to wherever else. So to the extent that the government did not correct that narrative before going to China, one would assume that there's something else that they knew would happen in China that didn't happen, that they now wanted to correct. But the big damage that was done, which is why the government had to do what they tried to do, I don't know with how much success, was the fact that there were headlines there screaming and saying, hey, look, these guys went to China to get money and China has said no. That's not a good reputation. It's almost like, you know, those the CRB thing where you go and, you know, to look for 50 bob.
It's not like it is the CRB.
Where you go to look for 50 bob and then you say, kuna ile hujawahi kulipa ile ya 20 bob. So it was a bad thing that they needed to correct.
And there's something that happened, Yvonne, if we could just go to Robert to give us the soundbite from CS Macharia on a new plan. This was his reaction in China.
In China.
I think he spoke in China. Okay. Let's listen to the CS.
But what is urgent right now is to do the connectivity in Naivasha. Because, my dear, we have the MGR going all the way to Malaba, Kampala, you know, which is still active. And so what we are saying is, make that line a lot more viable by connecting it to the SGR in Naivasha. Make sure that connectivity is done so that we do not lose any time.
You see, Yvonne, this is the issue. Kenyans are becoming apprehensive every day whenever they hear development, because to them, development is being equated to debt, a loan, or some borrowing. So you could even see the caricatures that were around or making rounds before the president and the former prime minister went to China. That guy, don't borrow again. I hope China does not give them some more loan. In fact, Professor, the comedian.
Yes, the comedians.
I hope we have that clip somewhere.
I think we should have.
I think we do. You see, there's that apprehension continuously that every time there's talk of development, there's some borrowing. And this adds on to the debt burden. And probably the government needs to clarify some of these things well in advance. The president next week will be going to China to do A, B, C, D, so that people have a legitimate expectation, once again that statement by Joe, on what will be happening. And if the president does not come back with that which they were expecting, or comes back with which they were expecting, there's some linkage.
You've carried people through.
There's some linkage between the government and the people. But now, when a statement is made by Honorable Raila Odinga, and the government does not bother to correct it if it was erroneous, then when the president and the former prime minister come back without the SGR, there's expectation that
and that legitimate
that is the
expectation again. But here's the other thing, though, because when Ambassador Monica Juma talked of strange headlines coming from Nairobi, those supposed strange headlines had began even before this Belt and Road Forum initiative, which was the 25th to the 27th. On the 23rd of April, the Star had the story, and they talked about the president will attend the BRI, seeking an additional 368 billion for the extension of SGR to Western. On the 20th of April, the Daily Nation had the headline, Uhuru Raila to go for 368 SGR loan in China. The Standard Media had the same, Uhuru leaves for China to secure 368 for SGR. At no point did the government come out to say, when they were still here, that those headlines are incorrect. In fact, it is not a priority agenda. This is not what we're going to discuss. This is what we're going to discuss. And for the first time, we had
a new abbreviation, the MGR. I was like, okay, why didn't we upgrade the MGR from Mombasa?
From the beginning. But then also there is that, there was talk of, you know, when you have a diplomatic situation like this, were there no feelers that would have foretold the government of the situation that they were going to receive there? In fact, some talked of the diplomacy there. That did President Uhuru Kenyatta actually meet Chinese President Xi Jinping? He was met by the Deputy Premier, right? So these are some of the questions that we're asking in terms of, you know, the expectation was set so high, but were there no feelers on the ground? You know, Ambassador Serem now, you know, in China, a man or woman in China, if you like. Joe, I mean, let's talk about, you know, the diplomacy there.
Well, I think the thing was bungled from the start, as you said, because look, if there are headlines of that sort that you mentioned before your trip. So the country is primed for a particular thing because people expect, in fact, people are complaining about it. Your take was actually partly on this whole thing of going for more debt in China. And there wasn't any attempt by the government to refute that at all. So if indeed, I mean, we have to assume that a couple of things probably happened. First of all, the fact that the government did not deny it would suggest that there was something like that they were hoping to engage someone on. And if they were denied, then that would say exactly what you're talking about. Because usually in all those international negotiations, what happens is the president hardly ever negotiate anything.
It's done beforehand.
The technocrats
So
who
they're just
have
going to
agreed.
sign.
So that is why when they're given those things to sign, they hardly look at them because they believe that people have been looking at them and briefing them. If they're not sure, they'll call Nairobi and say, hey, this is what they're suggesting. What do you think? No, you should take this position. So by the time they're going there, it is just putting pen to parchment, as they said. But this was a situation where they seem to either have been surprised, they go there and say, yeah, we are not getting this thing. And that is very strange in diplomatic circles. That is why something happened here which no one is telling us. It is not those strange headlines. There's something that happened in China which was not supposed to happen, which we are yet to know.
And then
Something needs to happen, Yvonne.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on what Joe has, it's very, very well put. The apparent disorder. You see, this is high-level diplomacy. We're dealing with China, a very, very big economy. I really hope we haven't embarrassed ourselves this way on their end. I hope all these headlines and all these stories are not on the other end as well. But my fears may have come to pass because the ambassador, Serem, spoke on the sidelines of the Symposium of China and Africa Cooperation and said, leaving the SGR halfway will hurt the economy, and that's why the government is coming for another loan during the upcoming BRI forum later this month. Kenya knows what is good for its people. Hence, we have to invest in matters which will enhance development in the country. That's Sarah Serem, who is our ambassador in Beijing. What this means is there is a lot of work that needs to be done by Dr. Monica Juma and our peers, Kamau. Both are very brilliant diplomats. They would know how it's played at this level. These little embarrassments are not good. They show a very disorganized kind of government. And I'm reminded of an incident, I'm sure you all remember, when the president was flying to, was it New York, and had to turn back at some point?
Because there was some war, whatever.
We don't know whether it was
going on
Eritrea
over
or
Yemen
Turkana,
and whatever.
Or Yemen, there is war. How do you do? This is a president. You would say such things if you are doing the matatu to Kilgoris, because maybe there's a bus tire or something like that. But a president's trip to a foreign country, and you are talking of even whether you can't do that.
I think I look at it this way. It's more of a communication question than maybe many other things. You see, the government must communicate clearly without any ambiguity, such that people are in the know what is happening. If there is any transaction that is supposed to be done, people are aware this is the kind of a transaction that our government is entering into with another government. This hazy kind of communication makes it very simple for Kenyans to be suspicious of every other situation. Look, so far, we have not seen the document in relation to the contract between Kenya and China in relation to the SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi. I mean, our colleagues from other media houses and TV have sent official letters seeking this document, which the president promised in public in a live television interview. And these documents are not forthcoming. Not so long ago, Njoka Waita said only Parliament can request for these documents and get. So it's either the president did not know that he was not supposed to give us the document, or something is not happening. So
Francis,
communication.
Francis, you are raising an old concern because that is a document. We haven't seen the document, yes, but we also have not seen the president since he came back.
Yeah, and
so
speaking
which is which, the president first or the document?
I think the president first.
I want us to, yes.
I was more concerned about the fact that before all of these things, the president of Uganda came and they had some good time at the coast, and they talked a lot about this railway. And I think the story that came out was Uganda had suddenly now sort of turned around and embraced the SGR idea a lot more. So where is the place of Uganda in all this, given that they were expecting the SGR on the other side and pick it up from Malaba, so that it could
so they
go
have
further.
to pick the MGR, which I think they have.
Which they have.
They already
Good.
have.
Now, listen, gentlemen, that looks like that SGR is terminating in Naivasha.